Hey there guys, gals, and my non-binary pals, how's it going? Bright here bringing you a brand new video. So today we're going to be talking about how in a lot of cases trans guys tend to get left out of the transgender narrative. I'm going to preface this video by saying that this is what I've personally experienced, what I've personally witnessed, and is not necessarily the experience of all trans guys. So please keep that in mind. I am not speaking for all trans guys. Since coming out as a trans guy and since joining transgender support groups on Facebook, I've noticed that there is this false narrative in the trans community that trans guys have privilege over trans women. And in my perspective, it's not that we have privilege over them, it's just that unfortunately we tend to be invisible. In a lot of cases, trans women are a lot more easy to spot than trans guys. Trans guys stealth a lot easier because of what hormones do to us when we're on HRT versus what hormones do to trans women when they're on HRT. And even if a trans guy doesn't pass necessarily, it's a lot less shameful if a trans guy is a girl in men's clothing than if a trans woman is a man in women's clothing, as the stereotypes tend to go about us. A lot of trans guys like it because it makes them feel safer. They don't like necessarily being in the spotlight. But for me, I feel like it just isolates me a little bit because I'm always the type of person who likes being visibly queer. And I like having those moments out in public with people being like, hey, you're just like me. That doesn't happen as much because I'm very obviously masculine and I pass very easily despite not even being on hormones yet. And it's probably only going to get worse/better when I'm on hormones. Something I've definitely absolutely noticed is that a lot of anti-trans rhetoric tends to completely exclude trans guys. It's a constant argument about whether trans women are predators in women's spaces, whether they're just men that are trying to invade these spaces. And that is why they need to be restricted to biological sex instead of gender identity. But, as I've discussed in my bathroom bill video before, if they're restricted to biological sex, then I'm going to be the man that's invading the female spaces because of my biological sex. So, how does that seem fair? Do you want me in the women's room? I mean, really, do you want me in the women's room? And on Twitter, I've had conversations with quite a few ignorant cis people who don't really understand transgender issues, where for whatever reason, male to female and female to male both end up translating to trans woman. I've talked about being, a trans guy, and for whatever reason, they automatically assume that I'm male to female. I've had arguments with TERFs specifically where they keep telling me that I'm always going to be a man and I'm never going to be a woman and blah, 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 and I should just stop trying and this and that and the other thing, just completely validating my masculinity. TERF hurt itself in its confusion, essentially. In a lot of general transgender support groups, it feels like the ratio of trans women to trans men is 4-1, and it makes me feel like a very small minority. Not that I don't like my trans sisters, but, in general transgender support groups, it's supposed to be a mixed narrative, not just one or the other. And this is actually something that I looked up on Wikipedia because I was curious and I wanted to watch more movies and shows and stuff about transgender characters. There is double the amount of movies about transgender women as there are about transgender men. Like, your choices for movies about trans guys are Boys Don't Cry or Tomboy, whereas there's a lot of movies about trans women. They're all super depressing, though. Regardless of gender identity, every movie about trans people is just super depressing. We're getting killed all the time. We need more happy movies. And going back to people not realizing that there's trans men, I've gotten into an argument with somebody about my gender identity, and they asked me if I was trans, why I didn't shave my beard. Like I like my beard. Why would I shave my beard? It makes me look masculine. So they were like, well, why would you want to look masculine? Aren't you transitioning to female? And it's like, no, dog. Trans men exist. I'm a trans guy. It's just kind of funny that for whatever reason, only trans women are visible. But I think that's a part of the reason why it took me so long to come to terms with being trans, because it felt so much like being transgender was only something that assigned male at birth people could be. That just assigned female at birth people just were tomboys and or, butch or whatever. And we were allowed to be masculine, but assigned male at birth people, if they wanted to be feminine, they had to be trans women. And it's dumb because I had seen, Buck Angel, and especially as I got older, I saw more trans guys on like Tumblr and stuff, but it didn't really click until, for whatever reason, after my grandmother died, that I should be living my best life and that this was something that I could do. But in general, it just feels like nobody realizes we exist. And it's kind of frustrating because, we're here. It's not just trans women who are transgender. Can we, become part of the narrative? Can we have more movies? Anyway, that is my 2 cents about the issue. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and all of that stereotypical YouTuber stuff. And have a good week, guys. Bye!